disclosed this in a statement. It said the troops, acting on credible intelligence, executed a tactical ambush, neutralizing the threat before the terrorists could wreak havoc on innocent civilians. According to Oshoba, the operation further highlights the task force's unwavering commitment to safeguarding the lives and property of citizens within its area of responsibility. He added that troops have since intensified their patrols in the general area to prevent any resurgence of terrorist activities, demonstrating their readiness to counter any threats and maintain stability across the region. The Ogun State Police Command has confirmed that a 35-year-old zoo worker at Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library, Abeokuta, Babaji Dole, has been killed by a lion. The spokesperson for the State Police Command, Omolola Odutola, disclosed this in a statement sent to journalists. The Bauchi State-born lion handler was said to have forgotten to secure the locks and barricade the lion's enclosure before approaching the cage to feed the animal. This reportedly allowed the lion to escape and attack the handler, resulting in injuries to his neck and eventual death. The victim's body was said to have been removed and taken to the mortuary at Ijaye General Hospital, while the wild lion was shot to release its grip on the handler. Away from Nigeria, 6 people have died from an outbreak of Marburg virus in Rwanda. The health minister, Sabin Nsanzimana, said most of the victims were healthcare workers in the intensive care unit, while 20 cases have been identified since the outbreak was confirmed. Marburg, with a fatality rate of up to 88%, is from the same virus family of Ebola. It spreads to humans from fruit bats and then through contact with bodily fluids of infected individuals. There are no specific treatments or a vaccine for the virus, but a range of blood products, drug and immune therapies are being developed according to the World Health Organization. Rwanda says it is intensifying contact tracing, surveillance and testing to help contain the spread. Neighboring Tanzania reported an outbreak in 2023, while 3 people died in Uganda in 2017. In other parts of Africa, tragedy struck Sironga Girls High School when a Form 4 student, Mitchell Chipto, reportedly died by suicide after jumping from the second floor of the school's administration block. The 17-year-old student, who was preparing to sit for her Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education exams in October, jumped at around 5 a.m. while her peers were getting ready for the day. School principal Jane Yanumba confirmed the incident, stating that Chipto was immediately rushed to Nyamira County Referral Hospital but was pronounced dead upon arrival. Nyamira South Deputy County Commissioner Florence Obunga added that Chipto had sustained head injuries and expressed sorrow over the devastating impact the incident has had on the school community. In Asia, major floods and landslides in Nepal have killed more than 120 people across the Himalayan nation. Officials have reported dozens more were still missing after 2 days of intense rainfall, which has inundated the valley around the capital, Kathmandu. Residents said they jumped from one roof to another to escape rising waters, which have flooded thousands of homes. Meanwhile, crews were still carrying out rescues on helicopters and inflatable rafts. Despite rain being forecast to continue through to Tuesday, there were signs of some easing. Reports say some residents were able to return to their mud-caked homes, while others are still cut off from major roads between towns and villages still blocked. So far, more than 3,000 people have been rescued, according to a government spokesman, but flash floods along with landslides have caused many deaths. Authorities said more than 60 people are still missing. In the United Kingdom, King Charles III has reflected on his mother's final days in Scotland, saying it is a uniquely special place for the royal family. The late Queen's love for Balmoral Castle in Royal Deeside was well known, and where she spent more summers as a small child and in later life with Prince Philip. The king suggested she chose to spend her last moments there in 2022, despite her previous concerns that if her death occurred in the Highlands, it may be logistically difficult for the others. The comments were made in a speech by King Charles to mark 25 years of the Scottish Parliament. He attended its opening in 1999 when he was Prince Charles and has visited several times since. Queen Elizabeth II died on 8th of September 2022, aged 96, at her Scottish estate. Still in the UK, an 8-year-old boy has tragically died after being shot in the head and face at a farm in Warcup, Cumbria. Sources said the boy was airlifted to a hospital following the incident, but he succumbed to his injuries overnight. Cumbria police confirmed that a man in his 60s was arrested at the scene on suspicion of assault and has since been rearrested on suspicion of gross negligence manslaughter and remains in police custody as investigations continue. The police have secured the firearm involved in the incident and are currently working to determine the exact circumstances surrounding the boy's death. A police spokesperson disclosed that thorough investigation is being conducted. Further details regarding the boy's identity or the relationship between the suspect and the victim have not yet been released. In the Americas, torrential rain from Storm Helene has ravaged parts of North Carolina and Tennessee, the latest southeastern U.S. states to suffer in a disaster that has killed at least 63 people. In North Carolina, the mountain city of Asheville was largely cut off by flooding as more than 400 roads remain closed in the state, where 10 people have died. The state governor, Roy Cooper, said supplies are being airlifted to residents. Officials have continued daring rescues with boats, helicopters, and large vehicles to help those stranded in floodwaters, including about 50 workers and patients who crowded on the roof of a flooded Tennessee hospital. Many petrol stations were closed in North Carolina, with long queues of cars at those still open. Park cuts have hit at least 3 million customers across 5 states. The storm began as a hurricane, the most powerful on record to hit Florida's Big Bend, and moved north to Georgia and the Carolinas after making landfall overnight on Thursday. A SpaceX spacecraft has lifted off to rescue 2 astronauts stranded at the International Space Station due to technical issues. NASA astronaut Nick Hague and Russian astronaut Alexander Gorbanov took off from Cape Canaveral, Florida, to bring back Suni Williams and Barry Wilmore. The Dragon spacecraft, operated by SpaceX, the private company founded by billionaire Elon Musk, is set to arrive at the ISS today. Originally, astronauts Zena Cutman and Stephanie Wilson were set to be part of the NASA's SpaceX Crew 9 mission. However, they gave up their spots to accommodate Williams and Wilmore. Astronauts stranded on the ISS due to technical issues with the Starliner spacecraft. Williams and Wilmore are expected to return to Earth in February 2025, along with Hague and Gorbanov. From the Middle East comes a report that Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has said the deaths of Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah will not go unavenged. A day after he was killed in an Israeli airstrike in Lebanon, Khamenei announced 5 days of mourning in Iran in response to what he called the martyrdom of the great Nasrallah, describing him as a path and a school of thought that would continue. It was also reported that an Iranian Revolutionary Guards general was also killed in the Israeli strikes in Beirut. There are fears that the strike could plunge the wider region into war after nearly a year of cross-border fighting between Israel and Hezbollah, sparked by the 7th October attacks and war in the Gaza Strip. Key to what happens next in the Middle East is what Ayatollah Khamenei decides. So far, He and other senior Iranian figures have refrained from vowing to retaliate for the series of severe and humiliating blows that Israel has dealt Hezbollah in recent weeks, seemingly because Iran does not want a war with its arch-enemy. Iran also has not carried out its threat to avenge the assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran in July, which Iran and Hamas blamed on Israel. Israeli protesters took to the streets of Tel Aviv, calling for the government to refocus on securing the release of captives from Gaza as the military killed Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah in an offensive in Lebanon. Those critical of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government argue that efforts should be concentrated on freeing those still held captive by Hamas, rather than opening a new war front with Hezbollah in the country's north. The stricter guidelines came after air raid sirens sounded across the center of the country after it was announced that Nasrallah had been killed in an Israeli airstrike on Beirut. According to the Israeli military, large bangs were also heard after a missile was fired from Yemen and intercepted. And talking sports, Argentina's World Cup winning goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez has been banned for 2 matches by FIFA for offensive behavior. The 32-year-old Aston Villa star was also found guilty of violating principles of fair play in 2 separate episodes. Martinez was found to have violated FIFA's code of conduct when holding a replica of the Copa America trophy to his groin after the World Cup qualifier win over Chile on September 5th. It is not the first time Martinez has performed such an action, having also done it with the Golden Glove trophy for Best Goalkeeper after Argentina beat France on penalties in the 2022 World Cup final. FIFA also sanctioned him for hitting a television cameraman's camera with his gloves after their 2-1 defeat to Colombia on September 10th. As a result of the decision, Martinez, also a key member of the Argentina side that won the Copa America in July, as well as the 2021 edition, will miss the World Cup qualifiers against Venezuela on October 10th and Bolivia on October 15th. Argentina is top of the South American qualifying table with 18 points after 8 matches. Colombia is just 2 points behind. Before we go, here again are the highlights. President Bola Tinubu has appointed Joseph Tegbe as Director General of Global Liaison for the Nigeria-China Strategic Partnership. Elsewhere, 6 people have died from an outbreak of Marburg virus in Rwanda. And in the Americas, torrential rain from Storm Helene has ravaged parts of North Carolina and Tennessee, the latest southeastern U.S. states to suffer in a disaster that has killed at least 63 people. And that was the world news on